Good morning, this is Rachel with Infused Meadows. I need to make some brownies to take to some friends today, and so I thought I'd bring you along in case you'd like to know at least how I make brownies in my house. This is my favorite recipe so far. So I'm starting with 1 cup of butter. It's room temperature. I'm going to put this in the microwave and I'm going to melt it. And as soon as it's melted, we'll be back. So while my butter is melting, let me just say that I have my oven preheating. You'll want that going at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 Celsius. Now, my oven, I have temperature checked it. That's my microwave. I'll check that in just a second. I have temperature checked it, and for me to reach the 350 degrees, I do have to go to 180 Celsius rather than the 175. So if you have a meat thermometer, I have this one that I bought, and so you can put this inside, don't let it sit on the metal, but you can hang this roughly inside of your oven, and you can get an accurate reading on what the actual temperature is. And you can set this to Celsius or Fahrenheit, and it's got a nice display that you can sit on your counter. No, I'm not sponsored. This is just me trying to help you out. So when you melt your butter, make sure that you do that in 20-second increments. Give it a little stir, put it back in if it needs to. And you need to have your eggs at room temperature for those of you in the U.S. that don't have your own chickens. Be back. Okay, so my butter is melted. I'm going to give it just a little whisk because I do have one little piece there that said, no, I'm not joining in. And so I've got a paper towel that stays just under here that I set my stuff on. What I'm going to do, also, 8x8 brownie pan. I line mine. You don't have to, but because I'm going to be pulling this out later to cut it to put into a box, that's why I put mine on that. But if you're not taking it anywhere, don't worry about, the baking paper, parchment paper, or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, I do need my handy dandy butter knife. Alright, I need 1 cup of sugar. I'm sorry, 2 cups of sugar. It's 1 cup of flour, 2 cups of sugar. Okay, there's my 2 cups of sugar. Set that up there. And some people ask why the containers for everything. Okay, so products last longer when you have them in airtight containers. If you allow too much air to get into your foods, they'll go stale faster. They'll go off. So if you want them to last as long as they possibly can, airtight containers, airtight jars, whatever you got, will help preserve it for longer. I'm going to bloom my cocoa. So I'm adding 3/4 a cup of cocoa to this melted butter. Sorry, I always set things in the sink so that they don't set. So I'm going to whisk this until this is nice and smooth. Now, if you want, you can also add about 1/2 teaspoon of espresso powder or maybe a tablespoon of coffee just to enhance it a little bit more. I'm not doing that today, but normally I do add about 1/2 teaspoon of espresso powder. But because this is not for me, it's not for my home, I'm gifting, that's why I'm not adding the espresso powder. Some people are sensitive to caffeine, and I don't want to be that person that has somebody else running around an office all because they had brownies that had a little bit of coffee or espresso in it. Alright. So, it's not like completely smooth, but that's fine. These are brownies. And due to the, sugar, it's not going to be completely smooth. I don't know if that made any sense, but anyway. So, our cocoa is in, that's my oven, in the hot batter. So I'm filling to make sure that it has cooled off with the sugar and the cocoa that's gone in. It's almost like an instant cool. So to this, I want to add 1 tablespoon of vanilla. And as I've told you before, I make my own vanilla. I showed you a video on how you can do that yourself. I have learned since I made that video. Okay, let me be honest. I wouldn't have thought the alcohol content was different. I have learned it is. So the alcohol that I use is actually 80 proof. It's just they seem to measure it different. But it is what it is. So yes, you want 80% vodka or any other clear alcohol, flavorless, so it takes on that vanilla taste. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add my salt, and that's going to be 1 teaspoon. Anyway, I just use this because I bought vanilla a while back, and I like the little container. I've since bought glass jars, so I may move that. Anywho, we want 1 teaspoon of salt. And I still have pink Himalayan, but you use whatever salt you have. So 1 teaspoon of salt's in. I'm going to whisk that. Let me just... Now we want to add 3 large eggs. 1 at a time is how I do it, but hopefully this won't be a repeat like yesterday where I had the dropsies and dropped way too many things. But you know, we all have that kind of day, right? So I'm stirring the egg in, or whisking in this case. Egg number 2. You could use a stand mixer, or you can use your hand mixer if you wanted to for this. I just don't see a point in dirtying up more things than I have to. 1 whisk works rather than 2 beaters, and you know, if I use the stand mixer, it'd be another bowl. Well, technically I'm using a bowl. It would just be that bowl plus the paddle attachment, and I don't know. This is just how I do it. So I have my 3 eggs in. And now what do we want to do? We're going to get rid of the spatula, or the whisk, and we're going to go to a spatula. And we want to add 1 cup of flour. And that should have been my butter knife, so hey. Alright, I'm going to stir this in. I just kind of start in the center and then work my way out, because I don't want to, you know, overwork the flour. I'm not going to underwork it either. Nobody likes pockets of flour in their brownies. So you're going to make sure that you scrape down that bottom, because you know how flour is. It'll find itself a little spot and stay there. Okay, so I want Fudgy Brownies for this. So I will be adding 1 cup. You could probably go as much as a cup and a half. You can go none. You can go a half cup. You add the amount you want. So I will be adding 1 cup of chocolate chips to this. And you know, I cut up my own chocolate. So just use whatever you like. I'm going to do this in a half cup measure. So I'll do it twice. And I keep 2 jars cut up. So there's a half cup. Set that right there. I've already cleaned my counter twice this morning. One piece missed it. Oh, those pieces did too. That's fine. I'll go a little under to make up for what fell in there. Alright, so I have 1 cup of chocolate chips. And I'm going to mix this in. Again, scraping down those sides and that bottom. Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me put some stuff up and be right back. Okay. So I'm going to pour my batter into my 8x8. And for those that have actually sent me a message asking, the measuring cups that I use are available on Amazon. They're available on Amazon US and at amazon.co.uk. I know because I bought them twice, 2 separate orders, over here on the UK Amazon site, and I do have it linked in the description box for you. There's also always a link there for the recipes, except for apparently in shorts. I don't know why. So, with the blackening seasoning that I made the other day, I did do an oopsie. I was trying to tell you, you know, that you wanted to shake your jars. You know, when you make homemade, you need to shake them because they tend to just kind of lump and clump. So, it is homemade after all. So, you just give them a little shake. And then I touched my garlic seasoning and said onion powder again. Or sorry, my garlic powder. And said onion powder again. So, the recipe is actually in the description box. It's the first comment pinned. Alright, so you just want to smooth these out. You can top this with a little extra chocolate chips if you want. I'm not doing that. Finger, they're clean. I've washed them about 10 times this morning. That's just since I took my shower. So, smooth that out as best you can. And then we're going to put this in our oven for 35 to 40 minutes. I am going to set my timer for 35, I think. But if you've baked for a while and you have, you know, a good sniffer, then if you smell them before that, be sure to test them. And all you're going to do is stick your toothpick in the center. These are fudgy, so it should come out at about 35 minutes. It should not look battery. That sounded wrong. It shouldn't look like there's, you know, wet batter on your toothpick. But due to the chocolate chips, it will look like, you know, a little moist, if that makes sense. Like actual chocolate, the chocolate chip melted. So just toothpick, you know, flip your toothpick, check it on the other side, another spot to make sure you're not going straight into a melted chocolate. And so it should come out fairly clean, like I said, unless you get the chocolate on there. Just toothpick test another spot. I'll show you when I'm there. Anywho, I'm going to get this in the oven and start my timer, and we'll be back. While I'm waiting on my timer to go off to get my brownies out of the oven, I just wanted to take a second to say thank you to all of you that are taking the time to watch any of my videos. I know that you don't have to take the time out of your day, which I'm sure is very busy, to watch anything that I'm putting up, but I truly, truly appreciate it. And I really hope that I'm helping to make your kitchen, your meal, whether it's a dessert or dinner, as I call it, supper, better. Or even if it's just a good idea that you're like, you know what, I'm going to take that and I'm going to tinker with it. And I hope that I'm able to help in any way possible. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. And I'm going to pause again so that we wait for the brownies to come out. Thank you. So, straight out of the oven, and you just want to take your toothpick, stick it right down the middle, and pull it out. We're good. I actually only needed 33 minutes. I pulled it because I could smell them. And like I said, if you know, you know. When you've baked long enough, you generally know what something smells like when it's about done or when it is done. And so you'll pull them just to do that little test, and then you're good. So all I need to do now is let these cool. I will say this. So anytime you're baking cakes, muffins, cupcakes, brownies, if you use any baking powder, these rise in the oven. Now, if you have a lot of loud noises in your home, or let's say you've got, I don't know, a dishwasher that's, I don't know if they do this, but they'll say it's vibrating your kitchen, your baked good can collapse. So just keep that in mind whenever you're doing things like that are sensitive in your kitchen. So you can also add to this walnuts. If you like pecans, you add yourself some pecans. You like caramel, then that the caramel that I showed y'all how to make, you can take little chunks of that, put that in there along with your chocolate chips, or no chocolate chips and just the caramel. You can melt that caramel in your microwave and drizzle this over the top. If you want like a s'mores top, then when you add in those chocolate chips, add in like about a handful of those little marshmallows and mix that into your batter. If you want mint, then you can, like right now, you could take yourself some of those little mints that you buy at the store, the chocolate mints, not the hard candy. You could put those on top, and they'll just they'll melt because of the heat of your brownies. And then with each cut, you'll have some mint in there. Or you can melt that in your microwave, give it a stir, and drizzle that over the top. Let's see what else. I know sometimes I like walnuts, but these aren't for me, so I'm not doing that. I especially like black walnuts, but can't find those. Anyway, so just get creative with it. If there's something you like, if you like peanut butter, you could add a little bit of peanut butter to this. I wouldn't do more than 1/4 cup because you don't want your batter to get too runny. You could, if you've got peanut butter chips available, throw you a handful of those in there instead of the chocolate chips, and you'll have a peanut buttery top brownie. Trying to think. You could, I've never tried it, but you could put some of those little Marciano cherries and put those down into this if you like a chocolate cherry. And then as it bakes, of course, it'll heat those cherries up, but that would also be pretty good because chocolate and cherry goes really good together, in my opinion. So yeah, just, get creative. Don't watch a recipe and say, yeah, I always make, anytime I've seen or I've been told about a recipe, I always make it as is first, and then I change it. So, you can make the recipe exactly as is, or make it your own. That's all I'm saying. All right, I hope that you make this, and I hope that you like it, or even love it. If you don't, then I hope that you find the recipe out there that's right for you. And as always, I hope that you have a wonderful day.